Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Wednesday, June 30th. The new expansion apparently has come out. Kind of premature for my taste because I had not really saved up enough gold. I'm not doing a great job really figuring out when the new expansions come out, unlike Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering. There isn't a lot of this is the firm date, the new expansion is coming out now. I'm sure those dates are somewhat announced and told, but they're just not put to the forefront, and certainly I'm not paying as much attention to Shadowverse as I have in the past for Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering Arena. So yeah, I'm slightly surprised by it. By the looks of the art that was on the main screen, it seems like they're going to try and have a card expansion that is also maybe a story expansion to bring back characters in previous solo sections. Resonance, Chronicles, Renascent, Chronicles? Renascent. Interesting word. I'm not sure if that is a word or if that means anything. Almost like Renaissance. So yeah, if you buy packs, you'll get more card packs. So it does seem like what they've done here is decided to add Entropy's Abyss Reconclusion. Which seems like that may very well have rewritten the story where the main character doesn't die. Interesting. Because in Fate's Trigger conclusion, that's the point where the main fairy craft character dies. So this being called Reconclusion, I feel like means it's going to probably undo that and bring her back to life. But some of the characters we're seeing in this expansion are from like Invasion of the World Reaver and Seeds of Conflict. Gears of Rebellion also kind of connects to that. So they're really trying to interconnect a significant amount of story and people. Let's see. So here we have a temporary deck ticket and 10 card packs, which is not bad, but not particularly great either. As far as this treasure trove, apparently that is still something that they're doing, and so I should have been logging in every single day, and I didn't. For the accountability section today, I was working on my mod to RetroPie. I decided that it would be easy enough to add photo support on top of music and video support and comic book support in the form of CBZ files. CBZ files at their basic are just zip files full of sequential photos, so it's fairly easy to say unzip this file folder, unzip this compressed file archive, and show the pictures in between it. Now, oddly, I thought I would be able to support PDF files also. There is a program pre-installed with RetroPie that seems to say it will do that, but it seems like the Ghostscript underlying software, the software underlying software called Ghostscript, is not installed. So it's kind of questionable why it's installed in the first place. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's half a dozen. No, I wouldn't be surprised if there's dozens of little programs that are installed by default in Raspbian that RetroPie really isn't using. but they're just installed there anyways. I suppose we have just enough here to open 50 packs. And now that we know the advantage as far as cards, is to probably just buy the newest card expansion to a certain level, but not up to the 400 level. That's pretty much what you should do. There is probably a slight advantage also of trying to go further. Shop. Let's see. Cards, decks, rotation deck. No, shop. Supplies, leader sleeves, cards. Why do you buy the temporary decks? This is a very confusing, very confusing layout. Here we go. Temporary pre-built decks. We have one deck, and I've wanted to get something that was Portal Craft that was a little bit better. I don't see a reason for Dragon Craft or Bloodcraft, so let's buy this with our ticket. Then we'll be back down to that. And so we'll just save that. And so now we have something not new. Whereas seems like every single tournament deck that we had and every deck we had before is now out. This deck contains cards that you have not obtained. How can that be the case? We were playing this deck. Either this game has just straight up cheated me and destroyed some of my cards, or it has removed some temporary cards. Which, the idea of removing temporary cards has never been implemented before. As far as I understood it, it seemed like the temporary cards were there forever. So I feel like that's some straight up insanity. Suppose you probably want to start getting some more temporary cards while we're here. Yeah, I don't know where I would have gotten all these temporary gems otherwise if it wasn't for this. So to me it looks like they've cheated the system here. And they've undone a lot of temporary cards and made you potentially get them again. Which, yeah. While I had a decent amount of temporary cards, I really didn't have that many. So I think I can do one more on that, and there's still a massive amount of temporary cards that you would potentially have wanted to get more temporary gems for, but you don't really have any great way to do that. Then as far as pre-built decks, that's all premium money still. Let's see, temporary cards. Temporary cards. Pre-built decks are pre-built decks. But oddly again, I am back to not even being able to find the decks by leaders, sleeves. Let's just look at everything. Nothing new there. Seemingly nothing new there. I think all of this would require either vials, which I suppose if you had a massive amount of vials, you could get one Seer's Globe. That is a ridiculous ripoff. I am so confused here. Crystals just is crystals with real world money. Cards. It would have had to have been under the pre-built deck. But that's missing now. Where did that go? I swear there was an option that would have had to have been here. And it's just missing now. This is so crazy. That the menu just kind of appears and disappears and appears and disappears. Whatever. Let's just buy these 25 packs and move on with our life. I already started late today and here I'm running into confusing problems. See, there definitely is a theme of 3-3 here. Still showing that gate symbol that they never really did anything with. So yeah, I spent all yesterday working on the RetroPie mod and improving it. The only thing left that I think I could probably do, but I don't think I'll do anytime soon, is build in a scraper of a sorts to generate the game lists for music and videos and things. As these are not actual video game ROMs, you're not going to be able to use the built-in scraper to find images or descriptions of music files. In fact, it's fairly impossible to get good album art and descriptions of music files from what I've seen anyways, particularly if you're sitting on like old MP3s versus somebody else's collection that they put on a torrent or something. So yeah, generally as it sits, the music and video files will just have no photo images, no album art, no description. It'll just be the file name. But I could easily put temporary images there and tell it to use the right images if you have the right images with it, which those little value adds turn something that looks unpolished into something that looks more polished, certainly. But it's not going to be like an internet scraper that goes to a database or anything. It's just going to say if there is something of this file name that has dash album art at the end, or if there is something of this file name that has dash image at the end of its file name, use that for that MP3 file. And that's about it. there is also a possibility of adding a script to run like M3U playlists on the music, which would probably be advantageous too, instead of having it play one song and then do nothing else. I also managed to play about 5 minutes of the Zelda Link's Awakening game that I am teasing like I'm actually going to play, but I'm not really thinking I'm going to make it all the way to the end, although the game may be a lot shorter than I think it is. And I messed around with the aspect ratios. Since it is roughly a 4:3 resolution and the monitor is 16:9, there was I messed with the different ratios that RetroArch could use until I got to something like 31:12 that almost stretches it completely to the full screen and makes it look still correct and isn't just stretching pixels ridiculously wide. I also am just tweaking settings on the build. It's really just the beginning of the tip of the iceberg to really get that build to work well and set it up the way I want it to be set up. One trick I did is, since it is now music, videos, photos, and comics as 4 new systems, as it were, in the emulation station, I wanted to keep them more separate, so I put a space in between each of their names. So since the names are sorted alphabetically, or at least somewhat alphabetically, there's a little bit of a difference that happens depending on whether you want the Sega Genesis to say Genesis or Master System, and things like that. So there is a by putting a space in front of it, it puts all 4 of those categories at the front. It still would be fairly silly, though, to install a RetroPie image just to make a Raspberry Pi be a slideshow machine on a computer, like monitor or a TV monitor. If you're just trying to put in like a slideshow of things on a TV in a hallway, I'm thinking like a college hallway somewhere, that would be fairly silly to use RetroPie for that, when you could probably automate that system a lot better. That being said, since you already have an interface that uses controllers or keyboards, it might be very, very desirable. Also, say it was in a children's museum instead. Like, while it probably wouldn't be smiled upon by the lawyers, as it were, to have a children's museum where the TVs are showing a slideshow most of the time, but when it gets slow, you hand the kids a controller and then they're playing NES games on the TV. That actually would have that value add, and it wouldn't be unheard of that maybe you could get somebody to program a custom NES clone game. Yeah, so, and certainly you could set it up so there were no ROMs on it in the first place, and it still would look very good, very pretty. Which that would be the silly part, is certainly if you were going to install a different theme and skin emulation station so much that it didn't even indicate for 1 second that it was actually first and foremost designed to play video games or ROMs, and instead was just a music music player slash slideshow player slash video player. And certainly adding support for comic books, it's not anything more than the most basic CBZ file support. It's not going to support any of the metadata. It's not going to support you ranking things because of the limitations of storage. Unless you're willing to plug in probably a 4 terabyte plus external hard drive into your Raspberry Pi, you're going to take up so much space trying to show comic books. Anyways, you're not going to get the entire 800 plus issue run of Spider-Man, for instance, in it without just taking up a massive amount of space in a very unintuitive way. Like, really, I was just throwing it in there on the idea of putting video game manuals with the ROMs, which that is the next step. And I also put a support ticket for the forked version of Emulation Station to say, hey, I would like to see you support this more directly so that you could hit the select button on a ROM in Emulation Station and bring up the manual. That way you can actually read the manual before you're jumping into the game. Although, at a certain point, maybe RetroArch itself should just have that ability. We're doing fairly well here as far as new cards. I mean, not bad at all. Which I wonder if, in some weird way, that some of these cards might not just be reprints of other cards. And that this is a reprinting of older cards that they really worked well and they don't want to lose them with the limitation of elimination of the previous oldest expansion. But what I definitely didn't do at 22 minutes into this stream and starting late is play Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. In fact, I was willing to risk it very much by unplugging my controller, changing my monitors all around. There's a high likelihood that I'm not going to be able to just immediately jump back into that game, and I'm going to have to probably, if not reboot my computer, at least relaunch the game. I did get Windows backup to do a full backup. I used the Windows 7 backup, scheduled backup, to an external 5 terabyte hard drive that I'd gotten. I think we stop at this point. Opening 4 more packs is not really necessary. It would have been maybe an argument for trying to push one of these tradables up, but we kind of know that the tradables are not useful now, so that really isn't a goal anymore as far as trying to get tradables. Okay, so in crafting mode, we can see we have like 10 copies of this, 8 copies of this. We have like 7 plus 3 copies of this, which that's some craziness in general. You would think if you have 3 duplicates and 7 copies, there should be a way to get those temporary tokens back, but I don't think there is. I think it is intentionally a one-way system. We didn't get any of this, which we probably do have enough vials in which we could craft things, 1 copy of everything. But also, is it really important to craft one of everything in the brand new expansion? Because we're going to get all kinds of tickets. 11 copies of this plus one copy of one animated copy of this, which kind of probably shows that there is almost a 5 to 10 ratio to 1 animated version. We didn't get a single copy of this. And that definitely feels like a card that we had already had. Starting to see more cards that we didn't get copies of. Yep. So if we go ahead and just liquefy the extras, how many extras did we had? I have 145 bronze extras, 48 silver extras. Liquefy all that. If we come over here and say, show me the bronze things, just to see that we do have one of every bronze card. Like, then it would be like, show me the silver things. And I honestly just don't know if there's real value in any of this. And let's just click here. Yeah, 3 plus 3 doesn't really mean anything. We don't want to use series clubs, no. Yeah, those temporary cards. We need to do an experiment here. Unlimited cards that were temporary only in any expansion. There definitely are temporary cards I have here. So how did I lose cards? They must have actually removed some cards. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Let's see. Temporary from the basic and the classic set. It makes sense that we wouldn't have any cards from basic that were temporary, but we definitely have classic set temporary cards. I just don't get it. We definitely have temporary rotation cards. So then, what is our daily quest now? Private match. Again, clear the single player. We need to try the temporary deck in practice mode. Solo, is that practice mode? Okay. Yeah. So let's start that. Start with that. Apparently, we have some new ones. I don't think that there's anything really new we would get for beating these practice modes, but we'll try it. It's glowing red, so we should go after it.
I bring unto you serenity.
This one's for my family.
Destiny Child went over to its new expansion, so it does seem like Asian games seem to like to cycle over at the end of the month, which arguably I would like to see more of these. I would like to see more variety as far as new expansions. It turned over right when I was asleep, and so I think I missed a purchase that I was going to do, which is fine because then that ended up giving me a bunch of it gave me a bunch of gold instead, which was fine because I desperately needed gold too. But yeah, I am definitely starting to succeed more and more with Destiny Child.
Truth and lies.
See. Bane.
Watch as I wind and wind.
So yeah, let's start going through the video game news.
I have to stop standing in place.
I did get a couple articles from envisioncommunity.co, so we have a new trailer for something called Don't Breathe 2, which this is not something I recognize, which is a little weird. Oh, I know why I don't recognize this. This is not a video game. This is movie and TV. Ah, that's why I don't recognize it. Same was for the other article I saw. Okay, so once again, envisioncommunity.co basically had no news stories for me to talk about.
Hostile life form detected. Terminating hostile life form.
Talk more later.
Verifying access.
So yeah, like what I think I'm gonna try and do is I'm gonna look at the news sources used on Reddit, which I mean, this is very possibly using a bad source for a bad source, but I'm gonna look at the news sources from Reddit and that are used on r/games and reconsider them as news sources. Although in general right now there's just not a lot of video game news. And we probably will have that be the case for a while.
The truth. At least we got you down.
Let's do
What fine
this.
threads you have.
And then okay, so Gamma Sutra has an article here. Iron Galaxy has hired a diversity, equality, or equity and inclusion programs lead to build
Stop
inclusive teams. I think they showed a picture of this person. Rejes, R-E-J-E-S-S Marshall, or Marshall, has been hired. And I don't think we need to go into
100% string and 0%
any more
fluff.
information than that, really.
A spin and a twirl and up. There's our puppet again.
Everything was a lie.
Talk more later.
Let's do that.
If I were.
Thy little canary.
I guess we just in there.
Did you send this breeze?
Gamma Sutra has a article here creating blind drive and audio sensory driving game experience through sound. which is probably sort of an interview. I've seen this game. I do question whether or not I could really play it. Microsoft has brought the Xbox Series X powered cloud gaming streaming to iOS and PC. From what I hear, it's not running particularly smoothly at the moment. So
Tell me what to do, please.
that is something to consider too.
And lies.
Okay.
Everything was a lie.
Now I know your scent.
But yeah, that is certainly something Microsoft has been working towards. I haven't talked much about Windows 11. There isn't really a lot to say until we see the final product, because there is definitely a high chance that a lot of what is going to happen is going to be very different. Than what really does happen. Let's see.
Best of luck to you.
Let's not play that then. Roll that. In the turn. But yeah, Microsoft 11 seems like what it's trying to do is pretty much force everybody into having a Microsoft account. Pretty much try to do an Apple closed garden system as much as they can. They're trying to move in that direction at least, and we'll see how far they really can succeed at that.
Unit confirmed.
The truth will cut you down. Thy little
It
canary.
seems like you have a high chance that you will not have as easy of a time even now as is now to dual boot into something like Linux. There probably is some legitimate security reasons why they're trying to have better security in Windows 11, but it also doesn't seem like it's really offering much yet. Like, the only thing that they really would be able to push gamers, I think, specifically to go to Windows 11 would be just like designed from ground up for gaming concepts, or okay. Let's see if this works.
I'm home.
See, is there anything to evolve?
Limiters removed. Battle mode. I am reborn.
Well, I think with this one card, I should be able to do 20 damage because it can attack twice anyways. Not even really trying that hard on this deck, but also this is a practice game, so no surprise that that would potentially be easy. So you do this, and then you do that,
You're a solid fighter.
and you win. Yeah, I think Windows 11 would need to be built up from the ground for gaming in general, and
Sleep enveloped in serenity.
I don't think you maybe DirectX 13 or 12, whatever the latest DirectX would only support Windows 11. It would have to be some fairly arbitrary reasons. Otherwise, it does definitely feel like Windows 11 right now, as I'm seeing it, is just going to be built around the idea of just having the same old things as DirectX as Windows 10. You need to play Shadowcraft or Bloodcraft or 4 Portalcrafts. I think we just stick with ranked Portalcraft for now. Let's move on through the news and just try to burn through this as fast as possible. Thunderful names a former id and Xbox director as chief strategy and investment officer. So Agostino Simonetta. I don't recognize Agostino Simonetta, but whatever. I also don't really recognize Thunderful. Apparently they made Lonely Mountains Downhill and SteamWorld Quest. Sony has acquired, this is probably the biggest news, the Returnal developer Housemarque to expand its PlayStation studios, which I'm not sure if Returnal actually has already come out on PC. I feel like it already has. Returnal didn't really succeed well as a game. I don't think it actually is particularly a good game. I think it tried to sell itself on Flash a lot more than good game mechanics and roguelike game design. I would certainly suspect that they were already in talks to be acquired even before Returnal came out, and they just had to fulfill their agreement with their previous publisher. It is probably a slap in the face to Sony of Japan that Sony Interactive Entertainment, Sony of California, has once again acquired and put money towards a foreign Finnish studio in this case, instead of maintaining focus, as it were, around the Japanese offices. I definitely heard an argument that we at this point may have peaked, or that a lot of video game companies thinks that they've peaked as far as their value, and that's why we're seeing a lot of game companies be acquired, is that they're expecting a recession at any point, and this may be as expensive as video games ever are, as video game companies ever are going to sell as. I'm not sure I can fully believe that. Like, it certainly could be a case that we are just at the beginning of the success of video game companies taking over the TV and movie industry, which they've already surpassed them, because we don't have anything other than VR that even comes close to a competition.
This'll be over quick.
And so it would feel like if we were even approaching the end of the massive success of video games, yeah, we would have to see some competition. But also with the pandemic and the economy in general, I could see why a lot of video game companies just want to sell and get out of the business. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has a job listing here. Hinterland Studio is hiring a system designs lead. This is in Vancouver, Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Let's see. Casey Hudson has a new humanoid studios that's going to focus on the charm of small, agile teams. He was the BioWare general manager before. So while we are having some studios sell, we're also still having a lot of companies being formed. Here, Gamma Sutra has an article playing with expectations to create tension in the local Space Survey Corps LLC vessels. This is once again more of a hype article, I think, than anything. Looks like a kind of a werewolf style game. Let's see.
What adorable, ephemeral lives.
Okay. Hit here, here, and here. Then we'll go ahead and evolve this.
Nothing shall alter. Do not see
I'll hit
this
that.
great
Blow
world.
on, dear wind.
Gamma Sutra has an interesting article here. Magic Legends is shutting down in beta. Refunds promised for in-game purchases. So they've just completely abandoned Magic Legends, which that's not super surprising because I don't think Magic Legends was working very popular. I think particularly in the digital sphere, Magic the Gathering has really failed to embrace digital gaming quite yet. They're trying with Magic Arena, but it is also not common for to see. If you go back and look at the list, there is a very long list of previously made Magic the Gathering games that have just been abandoned after a year, and this one didn't even get out of beta, being something not built around the card games. It doesn't make a lot of sense to make an action RPG game, which is what Magic Legends was, based on the Magic the Gathering universe when they've already merged the Magic the Gathering universe with the Dungeons and Dragons universe, and it would make a lot more sense to have Dungeons and Dragons games come out under that name.
Go on, eat up.
But
Wind, grunt them
This calls
courage.
for a taste test.
honestly, I think Magic the Gathering just kind of has a bad reputation, a worse reputation than it should, for sure. So
Tell me what to do, please.
it's not super surprising that
Blow on,
something like
dear
that would
wind.
fail more than you would expect. That is also part of the problem as far as Magic the Gathering in general, is that people that play Magic the Gathering only really have enough time to play Magic the Gathering. They don't have time to play anything else. It takes up way too much time and energy and money more than anything.
Wasting my time.
So unless they were willing to stop doing the cash grab on the Magic the Gathering card games, both digital and physical, I don't see any way that they can have something else exist.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
So this one needs to fuse a second time. Otherwise I'm gonna be in trouble. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Xbox boss talks mergers and acquisitions, says telling studios not to sell is short-sighted, which I guess Ninja Theory is the maker. They like Xbox recently acquired Cinemax Studio Media, Bethesda's parent company, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, Double Fine, and more, and they're still seeming like they're very close to trying to make more acquisitions. Also, I believe Todd Howard came out and said that Elder Scrolls 6 is still in the early design phase, which I frankly am not super surprised by that. Let's see.
All of you.
Okay. If I can survive this next turn, which I should be able to, I might be
Foul
able to
forces of
succeed
darkness,
here.
bow before my tempest.
Yeah.
Vice, virtue,
Let's see.
avarice.
Yeah, Ninja Theory is the maker of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, the game I'm playing right now, so I hope Microsoft can really support them to make a better game. Because so far in the first 2 hours of playing it, there is very limited gameplay in that game. And it is going to fail miserably in retrospective comparison to God of War, which is a very similar game, but way better. So, yeah. I had not recalled. I probably did see the news, but I am shocked to learn right now that Ninja Theory actually was acquired. I didn't realize that was one of them. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Roommate Group opens Montreal studio to offer external support to more developers. It's a new studio in Canada, and they're looking for projects. They've worked on projects like Control, Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, and World of Tanks. Usually these kind of companies never get to really advertise what they've worked on, and it is in part of the secret hidden aspect of video game development, where video game companies want to pretend like they made all of the every bit of code and every bit of art that it went into their game, when reality is very little of it may actually come from that name studio. There is fairly some question as to how much Gearbox really works on some of the games that Gearbox claims to have worked on, just to pick a random company. Let's see, moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Funcom acquires a majority stake in Metal Hellslinger, developer The Outsiders. The Outsiders being the name of the company, Metal Hellslinger being the name of a game, even though at that I don't recognize that game. Former Riot Games developers have banded together to establish a new studio called Amihan Entertainment. That's a weird name. This is co-founder is Naomi MacArthur, former senior game designer at Riot. She's established alongside Kenneth Liu, who served as the company CEO and previously worked on as revenue lead at Riot, and she'll be the CEO of the new company. And Paul Lowe, a former Riot technology lead, which Riot, I believe, is League of Legends. So I don't know if that means that we should expect League of Legends style gameplay from their next game. Gamer Sutra has an article here. Developers express ire over PlayStation promotional policies, which, I mean, this sounds like this is pretty much the same problem that developers have had with Sony for a long time. And in general, developers in general have a problem with everybody's promotional policies, whether it's Microsoft, Sony, Steam, Epic. Like, developers are never really going to be fully satisfied, and at a certain point that is just the indication of a good deal if neither sides are particularly satisfied.
100% stream and 0 spin in a twirl and out. There's our puppy the game.
There we go. A game here has been classified called Project 2021B, which I feel like Sherlock Holmes's address was something 221B. But what's weird about it is it is from id Software and ZeniMax Europe. So basically Microsoft. And yeah, 221B I believe is Sherlock Holmes. So that would, as far as this, what I assume is a fake name to hide its true intention, it does feel like they are working on some kind of futuristic Sherlock Holmes game, which would be weird, but interesting. This really doesn't play.
Tell me what to do, please.
Okay. We evolve this.
Tell me what to do with like this.
That. And that. And that's a board clear. While we're at it, we'll use with this guy. Clearly your strategy in this deck is to play Baphomet or Belphomet, Ultimate Creator, after fusing twice. Gematsu has an article. Astria Ascending launches September 30th. I may have kind of glazed over some of these articles in these game announcements, but I don't think I missed too many. This looks like an RPG game. It looks fine, but it looks also fairly generic. Also has one of the 2 or 3 Final Fantasy visual styles that seem to exist. Right. Let's do this. Kill that. And then this. And then this. Clear that. And clear that.
Take it from here.
Play this.
Threats you have.
And do that.
This'll be over quick. you have.
Guess you do this.
This'll be over quick.
That lets you build up your field.
Foul forces of darkness, bow before my tempest.
Because we still have a couple turns before we can play this guy. Gametsu has Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster series. Launches begin in July, or beginning in July. These are the relaunches of the very early.
Power of mortality.
Interesting. Seems like Gametsu also has gone over from YouTube to streamable, which honestly that would be better. Got defeated. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose just consistently here. Gametsu has the same article. Sony Interactive Entertainment has acquired Housemarque, which here in this image you can see other games that are single party publishers or mostly single party publishers
I bring unto
for
you serenity.
Sony. Although that being said, is God of War on nothing else? I don't know. Isn't this Days Gone? Like, I'm fairly certain that's on Steam. Like, this collection of image, I don't even recognize this. Is this... I have no idea what this is. I know this is some kind of sports game, but I couldn't tell you which one. Then you have Jak and Daxter. Then I think this is Neo. This is God of War. This is Last of Us. This is Returnal. This is on Steam too. I'm fairly certain this is Days Gone. That's on Steam. This was in-house. I don't know what racing game this is, and I have no idea what this is supposed to be. So you really don't have a large visual art piece there as far as showing that Sony has a significant amount of that there is a significant amount of first party or exclusives as far as the Sony anyways. So yeah, I don't feel like that's particularly great. I mean, you play this now just to get the buff, I suppose. Just in the turn. Yeah, I'd have a hard time justifying even gifting a PlayStation 5. I know they're extremely rare right now, but you would have to know somebody that has a significant PlayStation 4 collection of games. Like, even with forward compatibility, I'm not sure that list is significant enough to really justify not just making the suggestion of going over to PC or Xbox if they insist on having a console. Let's see. We can take that. And we can take that. Now I'll set that one up nicely. And then we can just play that.
Thy little canary.
Alright, let's start going through these games. Here we have a Chinese game called Hero Raging Fire, which just looks like a low effort asset flip. Early access, $2.99, Chinese only. Here we have something called Link's E6, which is already mixed reviewed as a golf game, which is a shame. Which as DLC. I think we had already even talked about that one. Here we have Sword of Paladin, which just looks like an RPG game. I keep going back and opening things we'd already looked at. Violent Witches, The Vindicator, which looks like nothing. We had already talked about that. We have something called Brass Birmingham, which looks like a board game, which that's already on the fall list too. Cheap Game 3, we had already talked about that. Man, I thought I closed all of the ones we had already talked about. Cover 1 evolution point. Guess you just discard that and draw a new card. And then I guess you just evolve here.
The design fault lies with you.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Walk of Shame. I know we haven't talked about this one, where you're trying to escape a one-nighter without being caught. Which, it's a funny concept, and maybe you could make a stealth game around that. It's 99 cents, English only, third-party EULA. That being said, seems like it is a stealth maybe puzzle game, and it just doesn't visually feel like it's as polished as that. A lot of these games really would work better as concepts. I could see that working very well as a intro scene to establish a character. Like if Lara Croft was escaping a one-nighter and stealthing out as a tutorial mission in a Tomb Raider reboot, that might establish her as a character. Lara Croft may not even be the right character to be established that way, though. But I could certainly see a more femme fatale type character being like that. It's all gonna be destroyed. Next we have a game on Steam called Speeder, which is just a dropper map that looks terrible. $15.19, ridiculously expensive. Here we have a game called Mini Ship Wars, which doesn't look like anything. $5.99, English only. Here we have Oniriki, which we'd seen this game. We didn't see a lot of advertisement for this game, so this could be a bit of a sleeper hit, or this could be kind of nothing. It is from a publisher I've never heard of and a developer I've never heard of for $12.74, English and Spanish full audio. I think this one deserves a follow list. It is really nice that the summer sale is done, because I really haven't done anything with it. I totally forgot about even looking at the curator feeds. So, like I had I suppose a very long list yesterday of I should have logged into Shadowverse and played private games, and I didn't do that. I should have done the curator feed on Steam. I didn't do that. There's like I definitely got distracted yesterday and really didn't accomplish even as much as I would have liked. Just go ahead and play that. And go ahead and play that. And this one doesn't fuse. Resonance activated 10 times. I don't know how you would be able to activate your resonance 20 times without adding more cards to your deck, which that seems like that would be very hard to do with this deck. Next, we have a game on Steam called Fog and Portals Game Maker, which just looks like it's some kind of thing claiming to be a game development software. It does not look good. It looks asset flippy. Free to play with in-app purchases, English only. No to that. Here we have a game called The Teleport, which horror game. Camera control. It looks like it's a Five Nights at Freddy's clone. $19.99 English and Turkish. I'll put it on the fall list and see if anybody reviews it, but I suspect the answer will be no. Hmm. 3 damage to all enemies. I think you have to do this, and then this first. Kill that, and that, and then we can recover an evolution point. And then Bane to this. Kill that.
To die or not to die.
Play that. We could have played this, but we didn't. Let's see, here we have a game on Steam called Dodge, which looks like nothing. 99 cents English only. Here we have a game called Sea of Roses, which seems to be a hand-drawn, although the animation does not look terrible, kind of adventure, visual novel type game. It's free, so the price is right. English only. I guess I'll put it on the follow list, although there is a decent chance that you will just never have you'll just never have any reviews on something like that.
If I were
Thy little canary.
Okay. So we can put this in the field.
This'll be over quick. Hold still.
We can do that.
to die or not
And
to
I
die.
guess we'll just evolve and attack here.
To die or not to die.
Guess we can play this.
And rise.
I guess I could do 3 damage here and 3 damage there.
Ephemeral lives.
Interesting. Didn't realize this invoked. Let's see. Here we have a game called Parasomnia Varium. Or Verum. Which looks like a dark screenshot asset flip horror game. Is there anything here to see? $2.69. Like this one cutscene that's just in the black background seems to be about the only thing that looks good on this page. So I'm gonna have to say no to that. Alright, well, let's see how this works.
With these feeble-minded invalid
Alright. Go ahead and do Bane to this one. evolve this one.
Accept harmony.
Limiters removed.
And we'll play one just for fun. And then the turn.
Know my fury.
I don't see any way I don't win here. Unless he can do a full board clear. We've got each of the main robots. Next we have a game on Steam here called Coal Hero, which just looks like a low effort, almost propaganda piece for coal mining in China. 99 cents Chinese only. Here we have a game called Red Man, which looks like nothing. 99 cents. Here we have Anime Cards, which is just either licensed or stolen anime images and a game of memory for $5.99, English and Russian. We're still waiting for them to concede, I suppose. Gamatsu has an article here. The ESRB has rated Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut for the PS5 and PS4. Which, okay, that's believable. They have Casey Hudson has established Humanoid Studios, which I think we'd already talked about it, but maybe we hadn't. So, the director of the Mass Effect trilogy left BioWare back in December of 22. Now he has a new company. There is also talk somewhat related to this in that Mass Effect, there was more talk of Mass Effect eventually being turned into a movie series, although I don't know if that means they're really in any actual realistic negotiations. Gamatsu also has Magic Legends to shut down on October 31st, which, yeah, they really never got anywhere here.
I envy you.
Arcade Games is probably getting screwed a lot more than Hasbro is, and Perfect World Entertainment and developer Cryptic Studios probably are getting a lot more screwed because of this cancellation. Although it may very well have been a case of Perfect World Entertainment and Cryptic Studios were dropping the ball as far as porting it to run on Steam, which, yeah, this doesn't make a lot of sense at all. It makes very little sense that unless Arc Games is a website. Yeah, Arc Games must be a website. Yeah, that makes more sense. So either Cryptic Studios was having trouble
All systems online.
developing the game any further, which would be weird, or Perfect World Entertainment canceled it, or Hasbro canceled it. Making console versions and Steam versions, though, really shouldn't have been that difficult. Here we have a game on Steam called Hunted Kobayashi Tower, which looks like it's a card game. I don't really like the color palette. $3.99, English only, single player only, which all of that sounds very strangely simplistic. I don't know if the Kobayashi Tower was the name of the tower in Die Hard 1 or not. I think it may very well have been. So there might be some copyright infringement going on here too. Here we have a game called Curved Space, which has some visuals. I don't know if this is just a round the circle shooter or what. Yeah, it seems like you're going around kind of a donut ring, shooting monsters. Doesn't look terrible. $19.99, English and full audio. Go ahead and play this.
Thy little canary.
Here we have a game on Steam called Merge and Blade,
Hostile life form detected.
which looks... They're calling it a puzzle slash auto battler in one game. Yeah, I just don't think there's enough game here though. I think it's probably closer to something like 2048 where you match characters together and then they level up. There might be something to that idea. $4.19. I'm going to be extra generous and put that on the follow list. Let's see.
What fine threads you have.
Go on and play this.
This'll be over quick.
Okay, that should be good enough. Here we have a game on Steam called Rebellion Gaia, which, yeah, doesn't look like anything. Seems like it's desperately trying to hide the fact that it's just a low-effort JRPG game, looking game. $11.99, English full audio. Here we have a game called Demon Cycle, which seems to be some kind of card-based resource management game. It doesn't look particularly interesting. $4.99, English only. Here we have a game called Smirkers, which looks like nothing, for $3.99, English only. Here we have Church of the Midnight Sailor, which graphically looks bad, so it's supposed to be... It draws inspiration from Hyperlight Drifter, a game I didn't like, Commander Keen, which is way too old, and Disco Elysium, a game I haven't played. $9.99, English only. Yeah, it's no. Here we have Hell of Men Blood Brothers, which seems to be a real-time strategy game, and it does not look particularly polished enough compared to other real-time strategy games, which I already own. $21.24, English allegedly full audio with some other languages. Also,
Hostile life form detected.
yeah, I definitely have like 2 or 3 big collections of real-time strategy games at this point. I can play all of the Command & Conquer series, all of the Red Alert series, and until I start actually covering some of that, I think I may also own some of the Age of Empire series. Until I start covering some of that, it really does not make any sense to try and take it to the next step and play newer real-time strategy games that are on a B tier or C tier. Here we have a game on Steam called A Wave of Enemies, which is just an asset flip shooter. $15.19. Here we have Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol. Unfortunately, we can see now it's out. It's already mixed. And I think that is part of the problem, is that these Disney, Lucasfilm published .emu republished games asking for $14.99 and having a third-party EULA. The third-party EULA is a little weird too, for such an old game. it just does not really make sense. Like, you're not making a good offering
Tell me what to
for
do,
the player.
please.
A fitting end.
This is these two NES games, even though they are somewhat cult classics, should have obviously been for sale for about $5, not $15. Let's see. The criticisms here are the original start screen has been changed, which I don't know if that means they just changed the copyright. There's no remote play together, there's no key binding or input changing, there's no widescreen, there's no split screen co-op. You can do much more on an emulated version and have been able to for 20 years now. This is a horrible port of the game. The music off, controls are absolutely terrible and unchangeable. They did a bare minimum effort. Alright, I've seen enough to remove that from the following list. Yep. And if that's the way Disney is going to handle its properties it's acquired, then Disney is not likely going to support or succeed as a video game publisher if it's gonna go down that path.
Verifying access.
Terminating hostile life form. Heavy impact
I
sustained.
messed up here.
Verifying access.
Begin.
Like
Damage heavy.
Let's see. Next we have Dreams Reach Village of the Gods on Steam, which looks like it's just a top-down dungeon crawler of no quality. Early access, $25.19, ridiculously expensive too. Here we have a game called Red and White, which
Hostile life form
looks like
detected.
nothing. $11.99. Here we have a game called Noobless Sans Factions,
tell me what to do, please.
which sounds like a French game, but I don't know if that really means that it's
Shutting down.
actually that good. Or if that helps it anyway. I don't think it does. $29.99 French only, yeah. So have to pretty much ignore that one, even if we didn't want to.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Okay, do this.
A spin and a twirl and out. There's our puppy
Like
the
this.
king.
And go ahead and evolve this.
Okie-dokie, what shall
Get
I
rid of
want
that
and
guy.
why?
Did I do okay?
Here we have a game on Steam called Star Pixie, which is just a low effort shoot 'em up, $1.19. Here we have a game called Solaris, which looks like it is a shooter with magic powers on the other hand. There might be something to this. Is it a single player game? Yes, it is. But it's free, so it's probably pretty short. Also, well, I'll put it on the follow list and see if anybody reviews it. Here we have a game called GoBot, which looks like it's a shoot 'em up slash platforming slash scrolling arcade style game. $1.99. I don't think it looks that interesting. Next we have Super Space Towers, which Seems like a 3D rotation game, which is an interesting way to take what is really just a top-down twin-stick shooter and spice it up by wrapping the maps around a column. $17.09, English only. That is way too expensive though for that one trick. Here we have Letters from a Rainy Day, Oceans and Lace. Let's read that. Looks like it is a Yuri visual novel romance game. $15.29, Japanese full audio, English and Chinese subtitles. We'll put it on the follow list. It's already getting some positive reviews. Although, once again, I'm not sure I'm ever going to cover any of those kinds of games.
Tell me what to do, please.
1, 2, 3. Play another. Play another. 1, 2. Play this. Dismiss. Discard 1. And in the turn. Next we have Tiliquity Eyes? Tiliquity Eyes? I don't know how you pronounce that word. Is that a real word?
Good guinea pig.
Again, it looks like a probably otome visual novel. There's a lot of guys in it. So like a young maiden visual novel. Although it's tagged as a RPG and not a visual novel, which is interesting. It's free, but then it has a bunch of DLC that adds up to $85.02. Requires a third-party account, third-party EULA. It supports only Japanese and Chinese, so I don't think I'll be able to get any more information about it, even if I wanted to. There we go. Let's do this. Hit that one. And hit that one. Hit that one.
Sisters, I love you.
Right, and every time this strikes, it won't take damage. Great.
This idiocy is exhausting.
So this one can just attack 2 turns, and it can't be destroyed. Interesting. See how this works. See.
My dreams will become reality.
Yeah, this one doesn't have ward though, so unless they stupidly try to attack this, I think they've won. And this is just like a crazy strong temporary deck to get. So it seems like with this new expansion they have definitely tried to create a major power ramp, like far too high of a power ramp probably than one collectible card game should ever have. But I suppose games going along and decks not winning have been a running problem for me in particular, as far as Shadowverse anyways, so yeah, I could use some help with stronger temporary decks. Next we have a game on Steam called The Wist, which this feels like her story, except for with a man being interviewed this time. Which, not a bad idea. $5.39. There's also This is, I suspect, not the same developer as Her Story, who went on to make two kind of less interesting games. And it is kind of shocking, though, that there would be so many, that they would take so long for Her Story to come out. Like, let's just compare this. This game is coming out June 29th, 2021. Her Story came out June 24th, 2015. Both games are just mostly full motion video. You can see Her Story is probably better acted and probably better shot than this new game. But I don't think that there's any big issue there. What would be funny is if it was exactly the same line of dialogue, except for done by a man. As some weird, like artistic statement. If anything, the list looks like it is expanded on the concept of Her Story, where Her Story is very simplistic. Next, we have a game on Steam called Daibado Puzzles. Never heard anything like this. Seems like a collection of weird-looking puzzles for sure. But weird-looking puzzles would mean new puzzles: English, Bulgarian, and Russian. It is $17.99, which is fairly expensive, but I'll put it on the fall list just to see. Yeah, we have one called Chicario Dentistry, which VR dentistry. I don't think you should be encouraging potential kids to try and do dentistry on other kids. Like, dentists really need to be mature adults who have been through many years of schooling and training, first and foremost. This is $1.99 and it's English and Korean. Also, I just don't think you're really going to alleviate any fears of a child going to the dentist for the first time by showing them what's going to happen to their teeth from the perspective of the dentist. It's better that they don't see that. It would be slightly different if this was a VR game where you were teaching people how to brush their teeth, which is something that people do have to do and maintain themselves. But yeah, there's just nothing there as far as something that feels like it should be educational. And frankly, it just feels like a dangerous concept to even introduce to kids. I don't think I've ever seen a dentist playset. You have a doctor's playsets for little kids, but I don't think I've ever seen a dentist playset. Just sticking things in people's mouths is not something you should encourage little kids to do, because they will emulate that. Yeah.
Verifying access.
Let's see. Here we have a game that's a bunch of Asian characters. It looks like just a Korean visual novel, not that good quality. Free to play, Korean only. Here we have a game called Cross Numbers, which looks like it is just crosswords with numbers, which honestly that's probably a more interesting way to do crosswords for me than anything, as a math puzzle. $3.99 English only. I'm gonna put that on the follow list. There's a chance that that actually wouldn't appeal to me. Do this, and then do this,
This'll be over quick.
and then what do we want to do next? Should have put that on the field, I think, too.
0% fluff.
Probably should have done
And
this.
rise.
Let's see. Gametsu has an article here. A Control co-op spin-off project called Project Condor has been announced for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Plans for a bigger budget Control game have been outlined. Which, yeah,
Why is it the string is so pricey?
I feel like the game Control probably would have worked better as a multiplayer than a single player game, considering how the vast majority of the gameplay in Control was very grindy normal enemies, and very rarely were you fighting a unique experienced boss character. And honestly, there is only like 2 memorable boss characters in the game, and that's it. While there were some other memorable sequences, they're quickly leaving my mind. And I just generally did not like Control as much as it was hyped up. Let's go and just keep on playing. So by moving it to a multiplayer game, maybe you can get more people interested in that. It does definitely feel like 505 Games and Remedy Entertainment, the publisher and the developer, Remedy Entertainment. It seems like they are desperate to make Control be more successful than it already was, which it felt like it was fairly successful in the first place, although they're also desperate to bring in the other character.
All of you.
American, no, it's not called American McGee. What is it called? The sequel spin-off game was called American Nightmare, I think, but I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, Remedy Entertainment is trying to bring in almost all of its characters from all the games it ever made, and try to make a connected universe, and trying to get people to appreciate their work, which, I mean, has consistently been poorly received. Yeah. And I think there is just kind of some genericness in how Remedy makes its games. What I assume Project Condor is not going to do, however, is really open up a door to a bigger world story developing experience in its own game. It might hint and nod to a Control 2 that tries to make Control as a organization seem a lot more interesting, and just get away from being focused on fighting the hiss and only the hiss, and the mold spore creatures, which I barely even fought in the game. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Funcom has acquired The Outsiders and announces a new studio in Romania. We may have already talked about this. Bloober Team and Konami have announced a strategic partnership. The deal includes a joint development of contents in exchange of know-how, which I feel like this is either the blind leading the blind, or this is Bloober Team teaching Konami how to make video games once again. Let's see, this VGC is one of the places I was thinking about using as a news source. So, I guess the question would be, is this a decent news source? Is it going to come out with a bunch of annoying bit of information? I suppose Konami, when they show the pictures like this, like Bloober Team could be helping Konami make Silent Hill games, and that would interest a lot of people, more people than it probably should. Let's see.
If I were
Thy little canary.
Can we get this to hit that in time? Nope.
my garland.
Enough with these feeble-minded invalids.
Dissonance.
Star Fox's co-programmer says he'd like to make a new game with no gimmicks.
Close.
Interesting.
Reborn. Know my fury.
Mario and Rabbids 2 development size is triple the size of the first game. Let's see. Despicable Me's producers officially joined Nintendo's board. Yeah, there's some real news story here. Yeah, VGC, VideoGamesChronicle.com. I don't know why I didn't consider it first. Because it does look like there's actual story there. Let's see. This.
Hostile unit confirmed.
This.
Hostile unit confirmed.
This.
If I were
Thy little
This.
canary. Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
And I think I am dead.
sleep.
This is not a warning. Commencing term destroying target.
Sisters, I love
I am reactivated. I hold purgation in my hand
Damage
once
heavy.
more.
Coming at you.
My dreams will become reality.
power of mortality.
So, yeah, here we have a Video Games Chronicle article. I opened a couple of them. Final Fantasy 15 Director's new studio has 2 games with major partners. Clearly, this is going to take a while to just try and get rid of all of this information to get it to look right. Let's see, so that we can phase down. Let's see. There we go. Get rid of that. And then go ahead and get rid of that. was useless. Get rid of this. There we go. And that should fix most of this page. His issues. Although, probably could still stand to clean up some more garbage. See, I don't like getting rid of the date and the person who posted it, but the way it's done, you pretty much have to. And that is a much better looking page. Didn't want to get too distracted there, but here we have Video Game Chronicles co-programmer says he'd like to make a new game with no gimmicks. Gilles Godard says he would like to dial back a lot and keep it on rails. Although that's funny because the Star Fox games originally was definitely an on-rails game, on-rail shooter. There is, I think, a real question as to whether Nintendo would ever really have a Star Fox new game. Last one came out on the Wii U in April 2016, and nobody had a Wii U, so it's no real surprise that would not have been well received. They also have Mario and Rabbids development team is triple the size of the first games. I think I would probably have to scale down this page a little bit. Just seems like there's a little too much. Let's see. Go ahead and get rid of related content. Scale this down so that the YouTube pages play a little bit better. Of course, if I have to scale it down like that, it's actually playing while we're doing this too.
And the lies.
Then we probably want to see if we can
Ahoy, musk fruit!
get rid of background images. Doesn't seem like I can easily get rid of the background images. So if I was going to have this at 100%, could I then indent and center? Nope, I don't think there's quite a great way to fix it. They just have the images too big on scaled up.
What fine threads you have.
Which that doesn't make a lot of sense. Certainly. And once again, I'm trying not to get too distracted, but this is at 100% scale. The monitor I have is at 1080p. It's at 100% scale. The only thing that is different is that there is tab bars and a URL bar, which is pretty normal. So when I like click on an image like here, and the fact that it's cutting off the bottom part, that seems a little weird. They just have this scaled too large.
What fine threads you have.
This. This.
This'll be over quick.
Should have put that on the field.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Do that.
A spin and a twirl and out. There's our puppy to
Do
get.
that. And that. And in the turn. Yep. We also have the Illumination CEO Chris Melandandri is also co-producing the upcoming Mario movie. Which, yeah. That's interesting, I suppose. That's an interesting way to say they've joined Nintendo. Next, we have a game on Steam here called A Strange Hotel, which looks like nothing. Puzzle platformer where you collect items. And that's about it, seems like. $6.29. Here we have a game called Jog the Crow's Cry, which looks like nothing. Let's see, $4.99. English for audio. Next we have a game called Fiore Daffodil. $7.99, English only. Looks like it's an attempt at some kind of RPG game, but I don't know if there's really a game here. But if this is more of a chapter 1 of a game, just seeing a lot of text with barely any actual gameplay. I just can't really believe that I'm missing something here. I think that for $7.99 this is showing me way too little actual game. Let's play that.
What fine threads you have.
And then do that.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Do that. Do that.
This'll be over quick.
Do
No!
that. Let's see. Here we have a game called Nikoba Rock and Roll, which looks like a garbage side-scrolling shooter slash platformer. It seems all over the place, frankly. Some low-effort garbage Russian game, I think. $3.69, English and Japanese. Well, I guess it wasn't a Russian game. Here we have a game called Abducted the Night Hunters, which just looks like a dark asset flip game. Coming soon, English, Spain, Spanish. Here we have Baseball Adventure, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter game where you bounce a baseball, it looks like. I think I've seen a couple of games like this. I think some YouTuber must have made them somewhat popular. But they don't look like actual fun, long-term playable games. $2.99. English and Russian. Let's see. So we can draw a card.
Hostile unit confirmed.
We can evolve.
Begin.
I'll sever your life with one snip. Hold
We
still.
can do this. I think we can do this.
This'll be over quick.
And then I think we just attack here and we attack there. And do we want to do anything else?
Completing termination sequence.
Let's see. Here we have a game called The Tale of Synapse, the Chaos Theories. With big flashing lights. Looks like it's a puzzle platforming game. I'm not sure that there's really something here I want to play though. Does seem like it has several different things. Weird things. This definitely feels like one of those games where I'm just gonna need to see some reviews. $16.99 is very expensive, but I'll put it on the follow list. I managed to kill all my guys. See, next we have a game called Barbarian Legend, which is tagged as a grand strategy game. To me, it seems like it's probably anime girls in a tiny tower strategy game, as best as I can tell. $14.99, Japanese full audio, English and Chinese subtitles. I think I would, if there's anything more,
All of you.
yeah, I think that if there is anything more to this, it would be shown in the video. So let me look at the video. No, it seems like it's a tiny tower game that different castles then merge together for battle in a circular arena,
Salvation? Just
and that's it.
Gather round. Found me some num-num
Yeah,
musk
I
fruit.
don't think that really works as a game. At least it doesn't interest me.
Hostile life form detected. Hostile life form detected.
Guess I could have played this first.
Oh, kitty pigs, where are you? Everything was a lie.
Terminating hostile life form.
See you all next festival.
Terminating
that.
hostile life form.
Today was a right good day.
And in the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Cloud Bashers DX, which just looks like absolute garbage. Free, English, full audio. I don't know why anybody would be using the DX label. That was for like the Nintendo DX. Here we have a game called Border of Her Heart 2, which looks like it's a visual novel with some asset flipped images, which makes the art look a lot better than the game actually seems like it is, even as a visual novel. Coming soon, early access. Next we have a game called Secret Agent, which looks like an old 90s game. I guess this is a remake of an old game called Secret Agent. It looks a lot like Commander Keen, though, so I wonder if it is just Commander Keen being reskinned. $7.99. Frankly, these kinds of games, I'm glad they didn't really catch on, because if this was what video games were still today, people would not really want to play them. Not at all. They barely were even desirable to play back when they first came out. Here we have a game called Raining, which looks like a kind of rough marker animation of a visual novels. Free to play, English and Norwegian.
I bring unto you serenity.
Is fighting and despair
Here we have
all
a game
you
called
know?
Virtual Becomes Reality, a Stanford experiment, which I don't know if this is a legitimate game where they actually had the license for Grover, or if this is something claiming fair use. What it really seems to me, though, is a collection of a bunch of like VR experiences of no real quality. It's free, so I guess the price is right. Single player, English only. But a Stanford VR experience, part of the Tribeca Film Festival. Next we have Bricks VR, and we can see the beginning of the end, and this looks like a Lego game in VR without actually having the Lego aspect, so it's just kind of a Minecraft game at that point, or a voxel game, which makes it particularly boring to me. $14.99. Is that English only? Yeah, English, allegedly full audio. Here we have Doki Doki Literature Club Plus for $13.49. It's overwhelmingly positive, so I'm gonna just go ahead and put it on the wish list. Now what's funny here is I thought the original game was free. So yeah, this gives you a nice, as a video game journalist, it gives me a nice excuse if at some point I want to play Doki Doki Literature Club to play the first one after purchasing the plus version of it, and then criticize it from the perspective of, well, you got this first experience for free, it was surprisingly popular and well received, and so we'll excuse the fact that the new game is possibly a little expensive at $13. See. One, two. That's what you're supposed to do, is use repair modes so that this is now fused twice and you're in a good position. Gametsu has an article here. Metallic Child launches September 16th for the Switch and PC in 2021 for the PS5 and PS4. What kind of game is this? Roguelike action game, apparently. Skimming the description. The PlayStation Plus free games for July have been announced. Plague Tale Innocence, which, yeah, I just bought that game, but yeah, that's not surprising that it would go on sale considering they announced the sequel. There's still a high chance that that the sequel's nothing. There's a high chance that the first game's nothing. Also, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and WWE Battlegrounds. Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown also. Let's see, the romance visual novel Sakagiri Hurricane Portable is coming to PS4 on October 28th in Japan, so wow, they're already up to announcing. Well, I guess it doesn't really mean anything that they're announcing in games coming out in October, because things get announced for very far in the future and things get announced for very soon. Seems like it really is just all over the place in that aspect.
Begin.
To die or not to die.
Let's see, if I end with 4 pips, that's fine. That won't do anything. It's 5 pips that will invoke the card.
Around. Found me some num musk fruit. Today was a
Seems like it would be unlikely that you would play 2 of these.
Curtain falls. You're in good hands.
Also, the romance visual novel Kiken Zero na Classmate is coming to PS4 on October 28th in Japan. Which, yeah. If anything, all this really highlights is the terrible low acceptance rate or adoption rate of the PlayStation 5. To all enemy followers.
This'll be over quick.
Kill him that.
Today was a right good day.
Draw 2 cards. Or just restore. I think you just restore. I think we maybe already talked about this. Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Series 1, 2, and 3 launch on July 28th. I guess that's more detailed bit of information. Here we have Vampire Slave 1, a yaoi visual novel. Yaoi meaning guy on guy gay love. Which we don't see a lot of those on Steam. It's free, it's English only. Animation looks kind of bad when you have like just a full background, black background, and it's exactly the same image. And you have a screenshot here and here, and it's only a slight difference in the image. This makes it feel like at this price it is probably less than an hour of story, and pretty bad story if I were to guess. Let's see. Let's see if we can invoke the card.
What adorable, ephemeral
There we
lives.
go. Next we have a game on Steam called Bunny Flesh, which looks like it's just an anime girl in a bunny outfit that's been ported into a platforming game that's far too neon and bright for my liking. Let's see, $1.19. Yeah, just kind of nothing there. Here we have a game called Necroland Undying Corpse, which looks like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter game, but maybe it's more of a strategy game. Is this single player? Says it is. $14.99, English and Korean. There might be something here. The creepiness of it may also be a problem too, so that might not really work. It may be very multiplayer site focused as a game, and that might be a problem too. 2 damage. Start with that. Otherwise, no, actually we can just do this. Nope, I messed up there.
Sleep.
Next, we have a game on Steam called The Wicked Days, which looks like a top-down twin-stick shooter game. Although it looks like it might be visually polished enough to at least deserve a chance. It's early access, $19.99, English and Russian. Let's see, we already talked about Konami and the medium developer Bloober Team partnering to create new games. Let's see. Could be a Metal Gear game, probably not. Could be a Silent Hill game, that would make a lot more sense. Could be a Castlevania game, probably not. Could be a Contra game, probably not. Could be a eFootball Pro Evolution Soccer game, probably not. Do I want to save that evolve? I think I do. Here we have a game on Steam called Lovely Kitchen, which looks like a Gravity Orbit game.
Power of mortality.
$2.99 English and Russian. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get a lot of the daily quests done today. Like, we had such great luck on Monday. I knew that that luck was not going to last. And clearly I've got a bunch of work that I probably won't do to rebuild decks and try and get back above the curve.
I bring unto you
I guess the real question is, as far as the meta in the game, is this going to be major changes from what were the really successful decks, or is it just going to be minor changes? And we may not know until the first tournament as far as how the game would suggest good decks to us, unless I go find some website that would tell me what the current meta deck is. Moving on, Game Search has an article. The PUBG owner Crafton has bought the interactive content producer ThingsFlow, which they made a chat-based content platform called HelloBot. Never heard of it. Bell Games has raised $17.3 million to create its debut co-op title, codename Project V. Let's see what we want to play here. Just that.
Thy little canary.
Here we have a game on Steam called Myth to Mist Legacy. No, it's Myth of Mist Legacy. Looks like a cheap Chinese RPG. $21.99 Chinese only. Here we have a game called Train Your Minibot, which looks like a 3D platformer. $8.49. See, we already talked about that. Here we have a game called Brick Builder VR, which doesn't seem like you're actually building a lot of things with Lego as much as you're building things with Connects or similar type brick building educational style toys. $24.99 English only. There's a real question here. Like, if you're gonna spend, say, $600 for a VR headset to play with Legos in VR, it's gonna have to be really, really good to beat out the $600 you could have just spent on Legos. It's not an insignificant amount of Legos, for sure, to potentially spend $600 on Legos. And now for major collectors, sure, $600 isn't that much. It'll get you like 2 expert sets and maybe a cheap $100 set. It could be about an annual supply for a major Lego collector. But for a parent who's buying the cheap Legos and trying probably to get it fairly cheaply and used, that is a lot.
Where are you?
Certainly.
What fine threads you have.
What should I find that
Can't do anything more. But yeah, I would much prefer kids to play with $600 of Legos and have that real tactical feeling, which can't really be replicated in VR, than they have them play with a $600 VR headset. Because if you break a single Lego piece, oh, you're out maybe 10 cents as far as damage. You break any component of a VR headset, you're out $600. It just doesn't make sense at all. And so yeah, at some point, science fiction implies we will have the ability to just like plug memories and experiences directly into our brains. And if we got to that level, then I feel like a lot of toys and experiences would be offered in that fashion.
A spin and a twirl and out. There's our puppy to game.
Okay. 1, 2. Do that.
All of you.
That was a mistake
What
then to
says
play
I
this
wind
one,
and
but whatever.
wind?
Yeah, that would be very interesting if we got to a point where it's just like plug in this micro SD card into this headset, put it on your head, go to sleep for 8 hours, wake up feeling like you've had the most satisfactory experience playing with toys ever. You don't actually have to own those toys or store those toys, and you've had, and that frees you up as far as storage and shelving and the eventuality of kids just not being interested in something eventually. You could do the same with music and movies. This and this.
Sand in my eyes.
I don't think I quite played that right.
I am a prisoner of this world.
Deadline says The Last of Us Nico Parker joins Pedro Pascal in the HBO series adaptation of the popular video game. So, is this going to be Joel? And this going to be the main girl? I don't even know her name. It's really a question though, as far as if you're going to make an HBO series, it's going to have to be a fairly limited series. You're not going to you're not going to be able to stretch it out forever unless you just take it in a very different direction. It's a fairly different experience from like The Walking Dead, where The Walking Dead had many chapters. I just don't think there's that much content around The Last of Us.
Pointless path.
Best of luck to you.
It's one. Gamma Sutra has a blog here, when to rewrite your code, which, generally you never have enough time to rewrite code in my experience as far as programming. And also, you kind of don't want to rewrite your code unless it's just totally horrible. Ideally, you already know the coding guidelines, if there are any, the way you like to code. If there aren't any coding guidelines, you already know how you do things, so it's not like you're going to change how you do things unless you've actually changed how you do things. And even at that, it's still probably not worth your effort to rewrite code.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Let's go and play that.
A spin and a twirl and out. There's our puppy to game.
I guess I could evolve this guy, and well, if there's a real reason to. Yeah. You'd almost want, if code's going to get rewritten, you almost want to hand it to somebody else. You'd think that the original coder would have written the code, gotten promoted, hand it to the new man on the bottom of the totem pole, tell them to rewrite the code so they can have the learning experience and improve upon it. that you might be able to harvest some of that ego of a fresh out of college programmer and say, oh, you think you can do it better? Here's the code, rewrite it, make it run better. Maybe you learn something new in the college, but to individually have somebody who had already written code do something twice, that's not very popular in my book. Like, programmers, or at least when I approach the idea of programming, I want to do something new and interesting and cool. I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again. If I was going to do the same thing over and over again, I could flip burgers, I could answer customer service phone calls. Like, there's plenty of procedural, do the same thing over and over again. Check out groceries is another example. It just, yeah, that's not what I'd be happy with.
Enough with these feeble-minded
Unless you're moving to a completely different language. I suppose if you are moving to a completely different language, at that point you have to re-roll code, rewrite code at that point.
Too much party, not enough business.
But it's not particularly common that you convert your code directly over to a new language for no good reason. That was one of the problems, particularly with Java, is that a lot of people made code in Java, and then Java support was very short-lived compared to like C and C++, which have been around for decades and show no signs of going away. So there was some need. I don't know if that need really got fulfilled for a lot of Java-based games and programs to be ported over to a different language, or just remade from the ground up. Here we have a game called Orb in the Stars. The other thing is, frankly, if your code is old enough that you're thinking about rewriting it, you probably just want to start over from scratch to add a lot more features. Computers are way more powerful these days and capable. They should be adding more features more than just doing the same thing over and over again. I think we've all probably experienced some pretty awful old software that just does the same thing it did 30 years ago and hasn't had a single new feature or improvement or even design layout change. As much as we may all hate the idea of Windows 10 slightly changing in its visuals to look like Windows 11, if there isn't any change that ever happens there, it's a sign of laziness on the user interface developer's part, assuming there is a user interface developer. People all have Apple phones or have used Apple phones or Android phones at this point, so there's a major different experience as far as how computers are expected to act and look. Very few people now really are all about shutting down their computer or saving a file. Those are concepts that are fairly foreign to somebody who's only used a cell phone, since the cell phone is almost always on and almost always saving. Next, we have a game on Steam called something in Russian / It's Summer. I assume that's just how you write It's Summer. Looks like it's a kind of asset flip walking simulator game. It looks pretty for the assets it did collect, and if anything, I think it probably has done a good job of just limiting everything to one house instead of trying to have a big open forest area around. It's instead a big open field of just grass. $9.99, Russian full audio, English only. I think I have to say no to that for two reasons. One, I don't really want to play any more walking sim style games, and two, I fear that game is specifically going to be I feel like it's going to specifically be just a What am I trying to say? I think I lost my train of thought there.
A spin and a twirl.
This'll be over quick.
There's our puppy to gain.
Hold still.
What shall I find?
I think it's gonna be mostly just Russian-speaking game, and so it's not really what I'm looking for. I don't want to have to muddle through something where it's just mostly Russian and I don't understand any of it. Here we have a game on Steam called Retro Run, which just looks like kind of a low-effort parkour platformer game. $3.74. Yep.
Sleep enveloped in serenity.
Got a bunch of random tabs open. I must have clicked on something weird while I was very not thinking straight. Let's see, one more portal craft would be great. And then probably we'll have to work on this tomorrow. Meanwhile, I'll also need to do the single player and 18 hours to play a private match. And then also rebuild the decks. There's just so much going on. Let's see, here we have a game called Higher Critters 1v4, which looks like it's a Chinese game. A lot of trailers. Yep.
I bring unto you serenity.
The rich deserve.
This
to
doesn't
be
look
right.
terrible, doesn't look amazingly great, but it's Chinese only, I can tell in the language. Early access, $14.39. A rare version of Minecraft was unearthed thanks to blind luck, according to Gamasutra. Programmer and Twitter user Luna. They ran into a very rare version of Minecraft that was only available for 4 hours in 2011. Minecraft Alpha 1.11. Okay, 1.11 causes the game to crash, so obviously not that many people would have kept it. Although I'm not sure there's really a lot of value in that either. It does kind of highlight though that if Minecraft in its alpha 1.11 had been using a better versioning software, that version should have been in the records of Mojang as the company that made the game, and it's very possible it was in their records. It's just now archivists have access to that version compared to just
Adventure's what I live for.
Mojang having a copy of it. Again, to little reason. Like, there's never going to be a museum of Minecraft where they have every single version of Minecraft on a different computer, net side by side. That it might be interesting, but it would only really be interesting to, I would say, about 2 or 3 people in the world. You might have every single a copy digitally of every single version of Minecraft to show, say, programmers in a college setting, and there'd be like a digital archive, and that might make a little bit more sense. But even then, I doubt there would ever be a college exercise in which you install and play multiple versions of Minecraft instead of having a much more curated selection saying, hey, here's what was added in this point, here was what that was added in this point. Yep. Let's go ahead and get rid of the repair mode.
Where are you?
Go ahead and put that on the field.
What shall I
Like that.
wind?
Next we have G mode, and then a bunch of Asian characters. This is another one of those cell phone RPG games that G mode seems to be putting a whole bunch of them out. $4.49 Japanese only.
I'll eat their troops for breakfast.
Let's see. I don't know if there's anything to mention here. Nope, I don't. Susan Wojcicki, CEO of YouTube, is tweeting out stuff, but it's very, very unrelated. It's fairly unrelated, at least, to YouTube itself. So it's
Unit confirmed.
it's not even really news to report on it at this point.
Begin.
Like, she's consistently
This is not a warning. Commencing termination. Destroying
been a case
target.
of her seeming and feeling like she's not really interested or concerned about what's going on YouTube as far as a day-to-day basis.
Completing termination
I did hear
sequence.
a conversation go on asking if Padel, the Alphabet CEO, is
We'll return light to the canal.
potentially
Strike now.
too nice of a guy,
Why is
and that might be
it so pricey?
something to consider. Is that if the Alphabet CEOs had been a little bit better of a boss and maybe less of a pushover, maybe Susan Wojcicki would then not be in charge of YouTube, and then there would be
Thy little
a
command.
direction in which YouTube is going instead of being basically rudderless. I mentioned in the previous recording that they banned right-wing watch on YouTube. They reversed that ban fairly quickly several hours later. It's like no real explanation as to how that happened or why that happened.
Now, let us play together.
Regardless of whether you thought right-wing watch should have been banned or not.
You need backup?
Here, Libretto has an obituary for Nier, which is weird for an emulation software to put out an obituary. He goes under a pseudonym, so there's a lot of question as to how do you prove this, that the person ever actually died. In the first place, that's what Kiwi Farms is particularly claiming. There's also a lot of accusation here that Kiwi Farms literally drove him to kill himself. So this is probably one of those cases where the Nier as a person could very well have been Dread Pirate Roberts, and they're just a fake name and they just don't want to go under that fake name, or it could be very much exactly as it is being reported. It's one of those instances where the fact that emulation leads to accusation of copyright infringement has caused a lot of people who just want to make programs to play their old games and play abandonware games are forced or feel forced into hiding and isolation to start off with. So as a news reporter, I can't really confirm who Nier is, if he died, if he killed himself, if he killed himself because of harassment via one group on Kiwi Farms or a different group somewhere else. It seems like that is the case from what I'm getting from both sides. There's definitely people here though that feel like he's passed, and people who really liked him, at least at Libretto, and so I guess we can leave it at that, or have to leave it at that.
Host, we're ready to sail?
About time we got started.
Into
Moving on. See, that's a kind of story that should be a story, but it desperately needs somebody that can actually report on it better. Somebody that can actually do the research and confirm that what is being said is actually what happened.
I surrender.
Back to the hideout.
See, 1 repair mode. Next we have a game on Steam called Ambidextrous Psychopath, and the text is all on top of each other. And the graphics look terrible. $2.24 English only. Spike Chunsoft has launched Nine Eyes TV trailer. Nine Eyes TV teaser website. So apparently Nine Eyes TV is some kind of like game that's coming out. Here we have a game called Nanoscape, where I feel like we had already seen this game. Free, single player only, VR. I'll put it on the follow list. Here we have a game called Bob Lander, which looks like nothing, for $5.99. English only. Here we have something called Fear 2 The Disappeared 207, which looks like some kind of Chinese, I guess it's a dungeon crawler or RPG game. A lot of dark screenshot syndrome going on. $1.49 English and Chinese. And here we have another Chinese game that is all in Chinese text, which looks like a mobile game. Free to play, Chinese only. Apparently, Spirit of the North Enhanced Edition is now available for Xbox Series X and S. The game barely came out to no real fanfare. Seems weird that that it's already got an Enhanced Edition, although a lot of games can claim to be Enhanced Editions now just because they're playing on the Xbox Series X. 3 damage to all enemies. I think we've got to risk this.
Armor's been pierced.
Sleep.
So,
And lies.
we have Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World,
Roars like a beast
which
from the
looks like an actual game.
I've seen goldfish.
I hate to compare it in the way to call it a Shantae clone, since this would have come before Shantae. But yep, this does look interesting. Although, what's funny is, this is labeled as Wonder Boy, but is Asha the character you're playing as? Because Asha looks like a girl to me with the ponytail. I mean, I could be totally wrong. It could be a boy with the ponytail and the earrings. I mean, certainly if you were looking at the pants, you would assume that that was a male, because I don't think the Middle Eastern Arabian ladies had big puffy pants like that. I thought they would have more long flowing skirts. Guess that's not really a big deal though. $34.99 is a fairly high price though. I'll put it on the follow list, but this needs great reviews, and I'm hoping it gets it. And then we have a game here called Head to Head, which looks like a fighting game with big-headed characters. $5.99. And that's it. Okay, and so what that does is that puts us in I guess, as good of a position as we're gonna get. Like, I need to play a private match. I'll do that later. I'm not gonna get another victory. Seemingly got just a lot of work. A lot of work with this expansion, where it would feel nicer if some of this was easier to do. We also need to do the main story and the private match for that reason. And then the battle pass. Let's see, how do you even see the battle pass? You click it over here. That we're already to season 4 on the battle pass, and there's zero reason I would want to buy the battle pass at this point. It is not. I've not gotten interested enough into Shadowverse that I would play it enough to justify that. Is there anything else? Card pack bundles, purchase bonus included, changes to cards. I bet the cards changed in several different ways. Got all kinds of decks here. Just once again, every single deck has lost something, so it can't be used. And what's weird about that more than anything is, like, this deck here feels like it's lost cards, and that does not make any sense at all. But maybe I never had the cards for that deck. Let's look at this deck. This card deck here also feels like it's lost cards. How could it have lost cards? It really does not make any sense. It does seem like that this wouldn't be too hard to fix. Though, maybe I could just use the vials to fix it. Cards needed. Just create that. Save. And let's see if maybe this is where the vials really need to be spent. Yeah, in this case, it's just 3 cards that are different. I bet that's the case with a lot of these other ones too. Not enough cards cannot be used again. This one is just 1 card. Let's go ahead and not save there. So it might be easier to fix the decks than it seemed at first glance. Alright, well, I'm gonna go down my Twitter feed. We don't really need to talk about any new games that came out. We'll cover the vast majority of them. Later. On Friday. Which, yeah. There's more job openings at YouTube, part of YouTube Gaming. I wish some of the YouTube streamers would go work at YouTube, and PewDiePie is probably not a good candidate for that, but I could see some of the other streamers who have not run into a lot of controversy but have had a dying audience or run into a little bit of controversy going to work at YouTube Gaming, and really knowing the experience from that perspective, and just giving up their channels, as it were. But I imagine what happens is by the time you are majorly successful on YouTube, you are then looking at yourself from the perspective of being a celebrity who can market themselves to several other areas. Well, this is going to be easy if that doesn't load. I think Twitter may have just messed up. I'm going down. Yep, I do believe Twitter has just decided to crash on me. I did decide to turn on the DNS crypt again and see if that will work, and I bet I've already seen one indication it won't work, and this might be another indication it won't work. So yeah, so we have a article here. Aardman Animations is hiring a technical animator for games in Bristol, UK. Let's see. Here's a Reddit post. Someone is working on getting Libretro to play on one of these Game Boy devices. Which, honestly, if you can't get one of these really cheap ones to run Libretro, it kind of doesn't matter. And the really cheap ones tend to only be powerful enough to play Game Boy and NES games anyways, so kind of doesn't matter anyways. A game called AI The Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative has been announced for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This seems to be either sequel to AI The Somnium Files or a advanced director's cut to it. And we'll see what the trailer really looks like. Looks colorful and such, but I'm not really sure. It's from the producers of Zero Escape, or Team Zero Escape, which wasn't that the Nonary games? They were just visual novels. Is this a visual novel game? There's no real indication that it is. I think I'd have to go back and check out and see what the Somnium Files was. Alright, well, lots of work to do. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.